Welcome to another episode of Beyond the First Million. I'm your host, Gideon Drucker, alongside my taller colleague, Jordan Haynes. Welcome to today's show. For those of you listening, not watching, we're in between. Are these ferns? No? Okay, because in my head, I keep thinking I keep thinking the Zach Galifianakis show between two ferns. And I keep thinking, is there a single podcast in existence that is more different than what he's trying to do on Between Two Ferns than financial planning from two financial advisors?
Oh, I think we're pretty different.
I love that podcast. We're going to be talking about financial advisor models, or how I would better put it, if my sister and her family weren't working with me, with us, what financial planning firm, what advisor would I recommend she work with? What would be the criteria? What would be the 5 questions, the 5 things of, hey, you should really look for this, find that, here's what's important if you were going to be working with somebody else.
Can I add that all of you listening to this have probably at some point gone online and said, like, questions to ask a financial advisor.
This is not a 20 question list.
This is more like what to look for.
It's almost not how would I pick a financial advisor. It's, to your point, it's more what would be the things I avoid? And I think that's even a better framing. There are 300,000 financial advisors in the country. And I think it's really hard to find a good financial planner when that many people are calling themselves the same thing. It can be really hard to understand, what are you actually hiring? Do they do the type of work that you're actually looking for help with?
There's a question I often ask when I meet someone for the first time and they're interested in looking for a financial advisor. I'll often ask, what has been your experience in the past with financial advisors? And I get lots of different answers. And then I'll often follow that up with, in an ideal world, if you could wave a magic wand, what would a perfect financial advisor do? A lot of times it gets down to help me achieve my goals, work towards the future, things like that. And so that stark difference, I think, for most people, I think most people listening to this recognize that financial advisor comes in all shapes and sizes.
And what you just said of how you do that first call is so spot on. That is always one of the first questions I ask, because it tells me what do they think a financial advisor is based on their experience. Yeah. Somebody, I ask, hey, have you worked with an advisor in the past? And they say, kind of. I had somebody, my brother-in-law's best friend, neighbors, whatever, sold a life insurance and they talked about cash flow. They just kind of looked at my investments once a year. Okay, I know where they're coming from. And again, they didn't really work with a comprehensive financial planner. Their experience coming in actually informs us of how we need to explain what we do, because most people are not coming in with zero knowledge. And sometimes they're coming in with such a backwards idea of what real financial planning that incorporates tax and estate and cash flow and all of this is, not through any fault of their own, but because maybe they spent 5 years working with somebody and didn't realize until the end of that, oh, this is actually not really a financial advisor. Yeah. This is an insurance salesman, a portfolio manager, a 401k manager, what have you. And they've never looked at anything else. And then part of our job is, here's actually what we're talking about when we talk about financial planning. And then we can move on to how we work. But without that first part of the conversation, they have a totally kind of misguided approach. Again, no fault of their own.
Yeah, financial advisor industry kind of sucks in terms of its messaging. And Gideon and I come from very different backgrounds. I actually met Gideon because for a long time there, about 5 years, I did consulting for financial advisors. So I met thousands of different firms, and Drucker Wealth was one of those. Along the way, I've noticed what are the main characteristics? Because even within certain subsets of advisor populations, there's the right things that you need to be looking for. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that, but I'm curious, why don't you start us off? What are kind of the main characteristics that you look for?
Number one is I would want to find an individual advisor that has their CFP, and which is certified financial planner.
Yeah.
Not because all CFPs are wonderful. There are plenty that aren't, and not because there aren't great advisors that don't have their CFP, because I know some personally that are fantastic advisors and they don't have it. But if everything we're trying to do here is, how do we make sure you're avoiding making a mistake? Somebody that has taken 2 years and really dove deep and is committed to their craft, their profession, that they want to get that education, they're going to work hard enough while they're running a business or they're working somewhere, they're going to study in their off hours. It's showing somebody that's not in this profession to make a quick buck, that plans on being here for a long time. And I would look as well beyond the CFP. Do they have other designations, expertise? Just going a little bit further down that educational path shows that they're committed.
And I would add other designations, things that are relevant to you. One of the things I think a lot about is, my brother's a plumber, and he works around other construction professionals a lot. Mm-hmm. So he knows a lot about other things like electrician stuff and framing and house stuff. But if I'm going to go build a house, I'm going to go to a general contractor, not a plumber. I'm not going to go to that plumber to build my house. The reason I really like the CFP as like a baseline standard is if you go through a program like the Certified Financial Planner, you're learning a lot about a lot of topics. taxes and estate planning and insurance and retirement planning and all those things. So you kind of get a baseline understanding of where you need to look so that if you do need to dive into a specific area, you can do that. And like you just mentioned, the financial advisor that's relevant to you will have the CFP, but they might have other things related to equity compensation or tax planning or things like that.
As you're talking about your brother being a plumber, is they have a point of view. They're going to be brutally honest in giving you advice. Now, this would be the next question. It's a little bit further down because you wouldn't know this about somebody until you spend some time with them. Yeah. So I just bought a house, my wife and I. And I think in a previous episode, I told a bad story of the house we didn't end up buying. We did end up buying a house, but because we looked at both, we did 2 inspections. And the first inspection, they walked us around the house and it was very surface level. And anytime they would say something, they would be like, so you can do one of these 3 things. And I could just think, I'm like, I don't know any of this. You're the expert. I want you to tell me what to do. The second guy for the second house that we ended up buying was just, he had a process, a plan. You could tell he'd done it 100 times, but he was still super specific to what we needed. And when he said something, he said, hey, here are your 3 options. But here's what I would do, having seen this 1,500 times. Like, that is why you hire a professional in any domain. You want an advisor that even from the start, is going to push back, is going to challenge some of your assumptions, because otherwise, just to validate everything that you might ever need. And the second part of that that's related is you want to make sure you're hiring an advisor that specializes in working with people like you. Meaning, if I'm talking to my sister and they're in their 30s, they have 3 kids, a firm that specializes in retirees is not doesn't mean they don't know their stuff, they can't help you, but everything they do is built around working with people that are 70s and 80s, that are focused on legacy planning and distribution planning and income needs. None of that has anything to do with my sister or her family. Yeah. You don't want to be the exception in somebody's business model. I know we've gotten to a point where most clients have some form of equity compensation, stock options, ISOs, RSUs, different forms of equity comp. And more, we don't work with small business owners because that is it's a different type of planning. Do I think we could do a great job with that? Of course. We could do it, but we're not the best fit because we have chosen to go deep into stock option planning. Yeah. And a firm that just says, yeah, we can do both of those things probably isn't doing either one to the best of their ability to an elite level. Yeah. And they're not in a position as a business to make that decision because they might need the revenue. You don't want to work with an advisor, truthfully, that needs your revenue to keep doing what they're doing. Both because they're going to take you on even if they're not the right fit. They're going to be afraid to say, no, you shouldn't do that thing, or no, that would be a crazy decision, because they need your business more than they want it. You don't want somebody desperate for your business to work with.
I have often said, and this is not me, I shouldn't say I have often said, but I'm going to say something that's probably been said by a lot of other people, but it is still true. I have often said it.
You just weren't the first, but I've said it.
In this podcast, I am the first to say this. No, in relentless pursuit of something, you have to decide not to pursue other things. It's just natural. Sometimes I find it really helpful when you are looking for someone or talking to a financial advisor for the first time, asking them, who are you not willing to take on as a client, is really enlightening. If you were a young 20-something in college, you're probably not going to go to a retirement community to live because they are satisfying different needs for that person. And yes, they have houses and running water and trash and utilities and the basic things you need to live, but you're not going to go there because they're different needs.
And not only that, but let's say that retirement community example, even if that retirement community said, you know what, we want to go after a different market. We're going to put video games in the lobby and we're going to put a pool table and we're going to do all these things for young people to come. They're still not going to come. You are clearly not set up for that. You need to be true to who you are actually trying to serve.
Although I will say, when we talk about retirement communities, I think I'd enjoy it a lot.
You're an old soul.
There's something about just hanging out. I'd have a golf cart. It'd be great. I'd just be... Yeah. Anyway, that's separate. But no, here's what I was thinking. To live in a retirement community, you need walls, you need running water, you need like the basic things. Right. And it's the same, honestly, with finances. They're the same regardless of who you are. However, individuals and circumstances are extraordinarily different. And that's the thing that really, when it comes down to finding a good financial advisor, you need someone that's willing to adapt to your circumstances. They're there for you.
And you should be able to find this out, by the way, just by looking at their website. Any website that's just this is for everybody, come on in, again, is showing you that they are kind of willing to work with anyone. Yeah. We show on mid-career professionals. When you go on our website, you're either going to be like, oh my God, this is me, and this is what I need, or this is probably not the right fit. And part of that about the website, but what I would tell my sister is you want to work with a firm that you can in 2 minutes know what their fees are. We have our fees on our website. And I think that's really important in any professional setting. And we recently had hired an attorney, a new bookkeeper. We're different things for our business as we're growing. And it drives me crazy when all professionals say we want to save you time and money. And then you go on their website and it says, call us, book a 30-minute meeting to get a quote. Like already you're not saving me time.
Yeah.
And again, different attorney, you need to measure scope. Sure, there's certain specific cases where that's true. But for what we do, you should be able to give enough of a range of what your fees are, how you charge, different models of fees, and then a range of what you charge.
What you are not saying is there is a right way to
Correct.
charge.
Yes.
What you are saying is just, no, put it there.
Whatever they are.
And there's a lot of different ways to charge for financial advice.
And almost none of it matters.
None of it matters. There's no morally right way to pay your financial advisor. The only right thing is to know exactly what that is and be able to explain it. If we were to talk to your sister and you're looking for someone, a really good qualifier that I would say is, could you then take this and explain it to someone else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just need to know what it is, and it should be early, not late. Late means, for better words, something is being hid behind something.
And it's okay if you don't know the exact dollar value.
Yeah,
you mentioned ranges, right? It's okay. Because we work with a general type of person who is probably listening to the show right now, we know generally what it takes to do work for them and help them. And so we can give a range of, hey, we think it's probably going to be somewhere between this and this. And that's okay.
All these points we're making kind of support each other. You can't give a range of fees if you'll work with anybody under the sun because you don't have enough information about the type of services they need.
We have talked a lot about like the characteristics of an advisor. That advisor is usually working for a business. And there are lots of different businesses in financial advice. You came up with a list of just a few characteristics of these businesses that might be helpful to go through for people listening.
I have a 37-point checklist. No, they're three. There are three.
I want to say in school, shout out Luke Dean. He called it the 12 tribes of financial planning. That's how he called it. And it was like the 12 different types of firms that you could work for in financial advice. We're not going to do that today.
I'm doing everything in my power not to follow up because that sounds so interesting.
It is
to me,
interesting.
But I don't think it's going to be for the broader audience that didn't literally go to university for financial planning. So we're going to save that for offline. But to this point, we've been talking about the individual financial advisor you might work with. But generally, they are part of a firm. The type of firm that your advisor works at has such an overstated it's important to the way you are receiving financial advice and the type of relationship you're going to have. It actually has an impact to the way you are working day to day. So there are different channels of financial planners that can work at. There is your advisor works at an insurance-owned broker-dealer. Your advisor is basically employed by a life insurance company. I'm not going to name them, but they are under that structure, how their technology is set up, even to the degree the incentives. If your advisor is at an insurance company, broadly speaking, insurance will be more a part of the conversation, and buying insurance will be part of the conversation because it's funneled through every part of the experience.
The first part that we just went through, that list, a CFP, someone acting in your best interest, is transparent.
Right, all of that exists everywhere.
That can exist in these different places, and that's, I would say, like, that's table stakes. You want
right.
that.
Yes, there are great advisors there, but they're a lower percentage or they're harder to find. Well, just eliminating the channel entirely, put yourself in the best chance of finding the best advisor. The insurance broker-dealer world is one. Banks are another channel. Everything is under that proprietary system. The technology, the investment strategies, the investment recommendations, to the same idea of somebody's coming from a certain bank, their advisor works at a certain bank that has their own proprietary funds. Both of these, when I talk about bank advisors and advisors at insurance, it's the structure of how everything is set up, even down to things like the technology they're able to use. When you're under a corporate or a much bigger entity, a lot of times you're restricted from what you're allowed to talk about because those corporate big entities, they have to play to the lowest common denominator, meaning when they have 1,000 advisors they need to watch or make sure it's doing the right thing, they're not playing to the advisor that's going to take care of their clients no matter what. They need to worry about the bottom. What that often means is you're not able to get as much tax advice or estate planning guidance because they really need advisors to play in a certain sandbox because they're just operating at such a massive risk management as a firm becomes what they're able to, that their advisor, even if they may want to get more involved in your tax return or your estate planning setup, they're not even allowed to.
For me, that's the commonality between all three of these is restrictive. Because for you, again, if you want someone that's interested in you, in your life, is helping you build your dream financial life, you don't want to have those restrictions. Having someone that is truly independent, and you'll talk about that here in a little bit, is really helpful just because they're not restricted in terms of what makes the most sense for you in your life.
So really the third channel is you want to find an independent RIA, registered investment advisor. That is a firm that is, the RIA itself is held accountable by the regulatory bodies that as a firm. If you're at a certain size, it's to the SEC. If you're smaller, it's to your individual states. The FCC is not approving anything they're doing, but an RIA has a fiduciary obligation to put their clients' interests ahead of their own. Like that is the standard of an investment advisor, which is what all RIAs are. So when we say independent, it means there's no mothership out above an RIA telling them what products to use, what investments, what technology. The RIA itself is responsible for the way they do business on every level. That doesn't inherently make that they're making good choices, but they are making choices that they think makes the best sense for the specific clients they work with. We left a broker dealer that was a little bit larger a few years ago. And since we've gone independent, we are responsible for every waking decision about technology, about partners, about vendors that makes the most sense for our clients.
Yeah.
That's where I would want every client to be taken care of, is by an independent advisor that is making proactive decisions specifically for the clients that they are tasked and choosing to work with.
Yeah, and I'd say that's the easiest filter. But then you want to go even further, because you can even go to the independent space and you might have someone that might not have your best interest at heart.
All of this is, at the end of the day, you need to find individual people and a firm philosophy and transparency that works for you.
And I will add that this does not mean if you have an advisor that is part of one of the big banks that you just love and you have a great relationship with, that doesn't mean go fire them tomorrow. If they're doing great work for you and you truly feel like they have your best interest at heart, they're helping you plan for the future, yes, there are going to be those natural restrictions. There's going to be those natural conflicts of interest. And as long as they're transparent and they're okay, like that's great. That's not bad.
Yes, to everything you're saying, we want to be really clear. I'm not trying to pull punches of, yes, I think the independent channel gives you the best opportunity to find a real financial planner that is going to do the best work long term.
Yeah.
There are great advisors everywhere. You have a great relationship. Awesome.
Let me summarize real quick. As you are looking, if you're asking this question, I want to go find a financial advisor, what do I look for? Got to be a CFP, right? Fees are clear. Transparency. I would just say like generally transparent in general around business and things like that.
You know, got to be a CFP is actually the CFP websites.
Should I put like a trademark?
Jordan would just like to get paid for this this free advertisement that
I just renewed my CFP. So hey, there we go. Works with you, right? So that's the third one. You want someone that is focused on you. It doesn't matter what space they're in. We want them focused on you. Are you a younger person actively building wealth? Do you have a lot of equity comp? Are you a business owner, right? Those are the things that you need to focus on there. And then someone who's transparent about who they don't work with. I'd say those are kind of the 4 characteristics that we talked about.
Yeah, summed it up perfectly. That's what we got today. Every bunch of episodes, we try to do one that's a little more in the financial advisor space. And we have 10,000 people subscribing to our newsletter. Not all 10,000 people are going to become clients. They just like the newsletter because hopefully we give great educational content and they want to learn for themselves. This podcast works the same way. So thank you for listening and we'll speak to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.